Very good morning, one and all. Today, I would like to talk about the blockchain topic. I'm sure you might have gathered a lot of knowledge and information from the previous sessions. Yeah. So I'm going to add some more content to your knowledge today. Okay. So that's my objective. And let me share my screen. The topic for today is blockchain. Okay. Ensuring business on. Let me put it in presentation mode. Okay, so this is a topic for today: blockchain and how you can ensure cyber security in business domain. Okay, so this is the topic I am going to talk about. So before I start, I wanted to read the acknowledgement. I have used a lot of contents, images, and graphics, and all these images and contents are taken from the internet. So I wanted to acknowledge the real authors behind those images, graphics, contents, and everything. Okay, so I would like to acknowledge them. Right. So let me quickly tell you what is the agenda I am planning to cover for today. Okay. So before that, I can tell you that this is mostly, I haven't gone very deep into the technical aspect. As I know, there are people, there are different kind of category of people, like there are students, there are faculty, there are different people, right? So I wanted to have a balance in my content. So I just make sure that this is mostly a theoretical content, but with some practical aspects also we can discuss. Okay, right. So let me introduce my agenda for today. So before we get into the blockchain, I would like to present you a scenario where you can get accustomed, or like a current scenario where you can get accustomed, and then you can understand how the blockchain can get into it. Okay, and then as you know, the blockchain has its impact in various domains, right? It has its impact in almost all the verticals and all the horizontals now. So but I would like to pick only these four areas or four domains where the blockchain can be applied, and also I'm going to cover how the security challenge, the cyber security challenges in this field when we are going to apply, or what are the current cyber security challenges, how blockchain can help to overcome these kind of challenges that we are going to cover. And I'm going to give you a small intro, and then we are going to go little deep also into blockchain. Okay, right. And we are going to discuss about what is the core for cyber security, and we'll conclude the session. So this is what it's planned for. I guess I will just go ahead and present my topics. So at any point of time, if you are not able to hear me or something, please ping me. Okay, like message me. I will try to see and try to. I mean, even the question and answer, just trying to keep it as the last one, so that after the conclusion you can ask me any kind of questions, so that I will share, and also I will try to learn something from you. Okay, right. So to discuss the current scenario, what I wanted to do is I wanted to present you a small story. Okay, it's a kind of a small storyline I wanted to present. Okay, and then it's kind of a cinema. Okay, like, and then I wanted to have two different climax. So this is very rare in many movies now, right? Usually we used to have only one climax, right? But I wanted to present you with two different climaxes. Okay, so that is my objective. So the title of this movie or story, whatever you call it as, is called A Day in Millennials Diary. Okay, so usually when we say example, people try to use different names, right? Ben or Daniel, or kind of different kind of names. So I wanted to use all local names today. Okay, so our hero's name is called Ramesh. Okay, so Ramesh is a millennial youth, and as usual, as like everyone, he's also very fond of hearing music. So he downloaded an app called Music for Soul app. Okay, so he spent most of his time in this app, hearing his favorite music and listening to it and enjoying and passing the time with it. Okay, so the app name is the Music for Soul. So he was enjoying it. It's a very early morning, and uh, he's enjoying the songs in this Music for Soul app. Okay, and suddenly he got a call from his close friend called Suresh. Okay, so he said, Ramesh, my mom is in have some health issues, and I need to take her to the hospital. And he's asking him to drive to the hospital. Okay, and Ramesh is just informing him, make sure you take all your medical records before we reach the hospital. Okay, so that is the second scene in our movie. Okay, and now both of them, now they are going to the hospital, XYZ hospital. Okay, and thank God they admitted mom, Suresh's mom, in the hospital at right time, and doctors or started saying, okay, we can that mom can be treated well, and they asked them to pay for bills, and it was a mobile payment. Ramesh was making a mobile payment that time. Okay, and doctors also advised him to buy some life-saving drugs. Okay, to save Suresh's moms. So Ramesh immediately went to, since he has to buy some life-saving drugs, he's going to an ABC pharmacy nearby, and he bought life-saving drugs from that pharmacy, and there as well he made a mobile payment. Okay, and then he went back to her XY's hospital, and everything was fine. And Suresh thanked Ramesh for his help. And when he was returning to his home from the hospital, Venkat is Ramesh's father, okay, dad. He just called Ramesh, and he's telling, hey Ramesh, I need to upload some documents to one of the government app, let's say Aadhaar or something, okay, or maybe like a pension or something. So he has sent some important documents, his personal Venkat's personal documents in WhatsApp to Ramesh. Okay, so Ramesh received all the document, so he said okay, and then he logged into government app and he uploaded all the documents. Okay, and Ramesh was happy that day was ending for him with a good note, happy note, and we put the title Subham. Okay, something like that. So now, if this is a climax one, okay, as you know, our story is not very interesting if you don't have a villain, right? So this story is, everything is good, everything is on time, everything happened very nicely, smoothly, right? So that makes the whole scenario is wonderful, right? That is the climax one. Now I wanted to take you to the climax two. Okay, right. So this, in climax two, we are going to introduce another new character called Kamalesh. Okay, Kamalesh is a person, he works for Hack the Globe organization. You may be wondering, is there an organization they will have just for hacking? They have an organization. You may be wondering, right? It's true, it's there. There are a lot of organizations in the market. They hire only the hackers, and they may be running a black market, maybe. Okay, so this Kamalesh is a guy. He is working for Hack the Globe organization, and you know the Music for Soul app from the previous screen. This Music for Soul app, okay, is basically is from the Hack the Globe organization. Okay, the Kamalesh is basically one of Ramesh is one of the Kamalesh clients, that he has to monitor all the mobile payment going from Ramesh mobile. Okay, you got it. So from where? Music for Soul app. So many times when we are trying to install some new app, you might have got a lot of notifications, right? This app wanted to access your photo camera, this app wanted to access your microphone, I wanted to access your uh, or allow this app to access your gallery, allow this app to access your mail, allow this app, it has so many allow, but normally we don't read them most of the time, right? And millennials, yes, of course, most of the students or most of the people in this age, they don't care reading all those terms and conditions or this kind of notification. For everything we say yes, kalas. Okay, once we did that, that's done. So Kamalesh got all of his Ramesh mobile. He started monitoring whatever he's doing. So as you know, if you remember in climax one, you might have rewinding your brain to know that what Ramesh was doing in the previous scene, right? So you remember he went to XYZ hospital, and this XYZ hospital is also not a genuine hospital. They are also selling a lot of patient records. Okay, as you know, health records are very, very important, and it costs lots, millions of money. We are going to discuss about it in coming slides, but XYZ hospital is one of them. They sell the patient records. Obviously, Suresh mom's records might have sold to someone. Okay, so that's XYZ hospital. And you remember, Ramesh was also going to ABC pharmacy for buying the life-saving drugs. But you know, this life-saving drugs is a counterfeit drugs. It is not the real drug from the real company. Only the label is real. Okay. So now think of it. He already lost all the records or data in XYZ hospital. Now with ABC pharmacy, he bought a counterfeit drugs, which is not real. Okay. And then when Venkat asked to upload, Now, as already I told you, the Kamalesh is already watching everything happening in Ramesh mobile, right? So obviously these documents also might have stolen from Kamalesh or from by this organization, Hack the Cloud. So as you can see, can we put a sperm or can we put a very happy ending climax for this? I'm sure this is not possible here, right? So everywhere it is like all negative, right? So the counterfeit drugs sold by ABC Pharmacy can kill the patients. The patient record sold by XYZ hospital may pose danger to Suresh's mom, and the Venkat's all the personal documents are being hacked. So you can think of a scenario. So this is another climax, but nobody can deny that this also can happen, right? We can have two different climaxes in our life. Either we can have a climax with a happy ending, or we can have a climax that is having a sad ending. It can be possible, right? So that's what. So with this scenario, with these things in your mind, let me take you to our current scenario. This is the current scenario we have, right? So most of the time we do all that without caring about anything, we do all our tasks, day-to-day tasks regularly. Okay, right. And as I told you, this Kamalesh can have access to all these things. That's what this diagram says. Okay. Now, with this idea in your mind, let me going to take you to the cyber security challenges in different domains. So first, let us talk about the finance domain. Okay, let's see how in finance domain the cyber security effects are having. Okay, and one of the recent research that says that there was 238% of surge in cyber attacks against banks. So as you know, around the globe, the banks are the main target for the hackers. Okay, so COVID-19 claimed for 238% surge in cyber attacks in 2020. Okay, and cyber attacks target either banks or the healthcare. So another possible place where the hackers are more interested is a healthcare. Okay, the healthcare as well, right? So as you can see here, there is another interesting graph. It says about when these cyber attacks are in peak. Okay, during the various events. Okay, for example, you can see here number one. Okay, these during you can see these are all the dates here. I'm not sure you're able to see here. Okay, the first United States confirmed the case. Okay, you can see here there is a 50% rise in the cases. Okay, when the United States first declared the first case in COVID, this is a case. And second one, the President Trump announced entry ban on foreign nationals. So here is another one. So third peak, you can see here the announcement that 2,400 plus have died globally from COVID. Okay, and 4 and 5, first death in the United States for 4, and 5 is for Florida declares public health emergency, followed by several other states. If you have a look at this entire graph, okay, you can have a look at these particular part. So it is very clear that these kind of cyber security attacks or the attacks are happening only during when the whole country is in some kind of emergency, or when the whole country is concentrating on something to solve some other problem, health problem or whatever. The hackers are very busy in attacking the banks, health sector, and they are looking for loopholes in the system to get into the system and get something. Okay, so that is the idea behind showing these particular graph. Okay, you can see all these are events. Okay, all these are some events happen that is directly associated with some kind of attack. It can some kind of cyber security attack in some sector. Okay, that's what I wanted to convey from this particular graph. Okay, right. And the IBM X-Force Threat Intelligence Index report, BFSI, banking, finance, services industry, and insurance industry, most attacked in last 3 years. Okay, in last 3 years, the BFSI is the one, the banking and finance industry is the one. They have mostly affected. Okay, so in 2018 itself, there are more than 19% of attacks. Right now, let's quickly see what kind of attacks are possible. So I'm sure the faculty who are here might be I'm sure about you might have studied a lot of things about cyber security. Okay, so one of the very popular web application attacks is DDoS. Okay, distributed denial of service or SQL injection. Okay, and then and because of these things, okay, so this since the this can be easily attacked. Okay, as you know, what is a distributed denial of service attacks, like sending millions of records or multiple records to make sure that the system is standstill. It is not able to provide any kind of service. The SQL injection is something like when requesting for something, the hackers will find the loophole to to execute some kind of SQL script along with that, so that it will create a lot of trouble in the whole system. And another important issue the banks are saying is called the compliance. Okay, maybe in India it's very I don't know where how much serious we have, but in many European countries and in UK, GDPR, the general data protection policies or restrictions are very common, and it is not very easy to share. It is not allowed to share any kind of customers data on your app or website or anything. So because of that, the banks have to compromise sharing some kind of data. They cannot store some kind of data. So because of these two reasons, the web publication attacks are very common, okay, in the finance industry. And second one is about the backdoor entry. Okay, so as you know, the backdoor entry is something like a normal main door entry is through an authentication and authorization, right? Through a proper channel, you can enter into any system or a project. But whereas the backdoor entry is something like you will bypass the intrusion detection system, and somehow you will find the loophole, and you will get into the system. Okay, and nowadays another problem is when you are going to take a banking apps or services, it is not served only by the bank. For example, if you take State Bank of India, all the services are not basically going to provided by only one. They may have a tie-up with multiple companies. They are providing home loans, multiple companies they are providing car loans, multiple companies they are providing agricultural loans. So in this way, there are a second party, third party, fourth party, or fifth party of people are involved in accessing the whole system, right? So how we are going to handle that? Okay, that is one of the another biggest threat they have for the finance industry, right? Another one is a global operational risk. So as you know, most of the banks nowadays have branches in multiple countries. They are allowing anyone from any country to open an account and having a banking with them, right? And also another thing, people use multiple devices, and they are providing anytime access. As once you have a very good mobile, or not a very good mobile, an internet enabled mobile, a smartphone with the app can be installed, and you can access it anytime. These are all basically the one side, the flexibility. One side, we are able to access everything nice. Yeah, it is a very good feature. But other side, this is another risk or another threat factor we have for the finance industry, right? And then apart from all these things, nowadays there are emerging technologies are coming up. Okay, most of the banks trying to use an Internet of Things for something, for allowing some kind of transaction and all that. And AI is also playing a vital role in banking industry. So these new technologies, these emerging technologies, also going to pose a lot of threat for the finance industry. Okay, these are the things for the finance industry. So if you take the healthcare industry, okay, so next one is about the healthcare industry. Let's quickly discuss what are the different cyber security challenges for healthcare industry. Okay, the first one, larger the network, better the medical care. Okay, so as you know, if there is a reputed hospital in the city, if they are going to have multiple branches in different places, okay, so let's say in Tamil Nadu, let's say we have an hospital, ABC hospital. If they are going to have a very good network across all the districts in Tamil Nadu, then now you can think of it, definitely it's a good thing. See, for example, you have you can visit the same hospital wherever you go. So basically, when hospitals have larger the network, it is going to provide the better the medical care, because everything like the same hospital, what will happen, they can easily share your data, right? So if you are going to ABC hospital for a long time, and from any state, any district, if you are able to go to the same hospital, for example the Apollo hospital, right, they have branches in all the states almost, right? So if you go to Apollo hospital, they might be able to share the details very quickly, right, compared to any other hospital. Instead of going to a new hospital and creating a new record or a file for your health information, instead of that, if you're going to an existing hospital, it makes your treatment quick, right? So larger the network, better the medical care, right? Now valuable health records and keeping the history. So it, as I told you, if you want to get a proper treatment, if you are, then keeping the history of your health information is very vital, right? So these health records are very valuable, and keeping the history is also important task in healthcare. Okay, right. Now, as you know, as we know, the health data is a very sensitive data, right? Because we might be thinking that the healthcare data is not very much important. We always think about the payment data is very important. But as you know, this healthcare data is also very, very sensitive. Okay, and these sensitive data is they are selling into the market for a very, 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 very high amount of money. Okay, it is highly financial. It's a highly good business for many people. They collect the data. Okay, then they share the data to someone, maybe the pharmacies or some kind of people or some kind of networks, and they make a lot of money. Okay, and another thing is called a ransomware attack. Oh, suppose this particular sensitive data is of sensitive data of a VIP, very important person of the state. Okay, if I am the hacker, I just hacked that VIP's data. So I can ask for money. I know all his health information, and I will threaten him to say that I will expose this your health information to the media. Okay, I can demand for some money. Okay, that is called a ransomware attack. So that can be possible. Right. So malware and phishing attacks from the unsecured devices, you might be aware what is a malware and phishing attacks. That is also very, very common when people are trying to access a healthcare app from an unsecured device. Okay. And when people manipulate the health data, then our lives will be in danger. Okay. You might have heard there is a very recent attack in US, I think. Okay. Very recently, maybe 1 or 2 weeks back. Just checking the internet, there is a complete hospital has been shut down, and many people have died because of IT attack, cyber security attack. Okay, so they can manipulate any hackers. They get into these sensitive health data. They can easily manipulate the data. Then we can say that most of the patients' lives will be in danger. Okay, right. And hacking EHR, okay, for fake insurance claims. Okay, so many employee health records, so many people for insurance company, this is a very big challenge that there are many hackers. They pose themselves as a particular person and they claim for money because they have access to all the health information. They create a fake claim and they try to ask for a fake money. I mean, they try to claim money from an insurance with that fake claims. Okay, so that these are the very high level healthcare cyber security challenges, and it is very common and it is happening every day. Okay, we are not, maybe we not be aware, but somewhere in the globe it's happening. All these things are happening. Okay, for hospital networks. Right. Right. So next one, it's about the government services. So as you know, we are moving towards digitalization, right? So most of the things we wanted to make it digital. Definitely, it is a very good thing because it makes our life easier, and the processing time is very quicker. Okay. For example, when you want to apply for a license 10 years back, you may have to walk into the RTO office. You have to fill all the forms, right? And it's all paper-based work, right? As you know, it will take more than 2 months, 3 months time, but now it is very simpler, right? Even in India, I guess, right, it's the same thing. Even here it is completely digitalized. I believe in even India also it is completely digitalized, right? So you can easily apply for anything. Even you can talk about our Aadhaar system. It's a very, you can think about how an Aadhaar system works for serving millions of people. So nowhere in the country other than China they might be having this kind of a bigger system, right? So you can think of it. So the government services are very, very essential when we are going to make the citizens' life more easier, right? When they have to digitalize everything. But this comes with the cost of cyber security attacks, right? And one of the studies, one of the things I read, it says that uh, these government services data, okay, the data coming from. So when you take government services, you think of it, okay, like something like when a government is going to provide the service, it is going to get all your data, right? It is going to get all your data. It may need your health data, your everything, all your personal information is going to reside in a government server if it is going to be digitalized. So you can see this is one of the highly lucrative targets for the hackers. And it says that these provide profit more than illegal drug markets. Even if you want to sell illegal drugs, or if you want to transport the illegal drug from one country to another, it is a highly risky job. It is a highly paid job, is different, but it's also a highly risky job. But if you are able to hack all the government services and all the government data, This profit is more than that illegal drug markets. Okay, this is a very interesting read. That's why I wanted to include here. Right. So in government services, what are the things? What are the things, or what kind of data that can be attacked? Let's quickly see. So first one, the personal record. So when we talk about the government service, of course, it's a personal record. All the citizens, okay, whoever is living in the country, whoever is coming into the country, so all this information is going to save, and mostly this is a highly confidential and sensitive personal records, right? So it contains everything. Okay, so it contains everything. So as you know, when your data contains everything, and then it is definitely at a risk. Okay, right. So this is one of the attacks. US OPM data breach in 2014 is a very popular, where the hackers directly attack the government services, and they are able to get hold of a lot of information and a lot of data from the government servers. Okay, there is a data breach on 2014. I leaving it to you for you to read. Okay, another very possible attacks is called DDoS attacks. Very common, distributed denial of service attacks, right? So here I can make, for example, if I want to make Aadhaar, I want to attack Aadhaar app, I want to make a cyber security attack. So what I can do, I just send anonymous requests, okay, millions of anonymous requests. I write a script, I will execute the script, and let it let it start creating so many requests as possible. So possibly that will going to stop any kind of other related services to the citizens, correct? So that is called a distributed denial of service attack. So this disrupt government operation includes central banks, defense, power grids, etc. Okay, so when, as you know, I am not only going to Aadhaar, you can think of any other service. I can access the power grid, and I can stop the whole, I can make the whole country to be in dark, right? I can access the central bank data, and I can make, and defense, I can compromise on defense data, and I can do something. So all these things can be possible with the DDoS attacks, right? And phishing and malware attacks, the illegal access to SSN or payment details. So I can have an access to your Aadhaar ID illegally, and I can use it for many of my, or your PAN card. And many people don't care about the PAN card, right? In India. So how they can use it? They can use the PAN card in many ways. Suppose I wanted to do an illegal transaction. Okay, I will use your PAN card. So if I know your PAN card, right? So sharing this kind of PAN information is very, very vital. But many times we don't care. We just give the PAN card wherever we want. And even in maybe for railways, or even everywhere, if you want to check an ID card, it is not a good idea to give the PAN card as a copy, as a proof for. Okay, only if they ask, we have to. Otherwise, it is better not to share, because this can be used with anything. Even in Aadhaar, I just went to many of the centers, where the Aadhaar centers in India. In many places they outsource, sometime back, not recently. Many places they outsource Aadhaar details. They just put Aadhaar IDs on the top of it. They hanged all the Aadhaar IDs around their shop. I was shocked to see that. I asked them, why you put all these Aadhaar IDs here? No, sir, customers will come, then they will give. It's very, very dangerous thing. Then I told them I don't want to apply with them. Okay, so this is a kind of thing that we have to be very sensitive about, the Aadhaar ID or PAN card and all these details. And illegal access to all these things will leads to many things. Okay, as you know, now the Aadhaar ID is linked to many other things. Is definitely, you have to be very, very careful in sharing this kind of information. Okay, so they can do anything else they want with the hackers. Next one is a motivated attacks. Okay, for example, it can be the reasons for egoistical reasons, or political reasons, or business competitions. For all these three reasons, the attackers' motives will be different. So they wanted to make the political turmoil within the country. So they maybe the another country will initiate this kind of cyber security attack to disrupt all the services. Or the business competition. Some countries don't want the growth of another country, so they can do and political and business competitions can be a motive for attacking the government services. Okay, so these are the possible attacks in government services. Is everything okay, guys? Are you able to hear? No issues, I guess, right? Yes, all okay, right? I believe. Okay, okay, so these are all for the government services, right? So next one, now I'm just presenting you the slide that we discussed initially. Okay, the day in Millionaire's Diary, climax 1. So here every time. So you just think of the scenario when I download this particular app, when Ramesh download this particular app, we actually and when I'm trying to install the app, it asks for so many allows, right? Allow this app to access this, allow this app to access a microphone, allow this app to do this, that. For everything we say yes. Why? Because I trust this is already in the Play Store or in App Store. I can trust this and I can install in my mobile, right? That is the one we are doing. And Suresh, when trying to share all the medical records to the hospital, we are trusting, right? We say that okay, I can share all my XYZ, share my documents to XYZ hospital because I trust them. And Ramesh also make a mobile payment because he's trusting, okay, nothing is going to happen. And he buy all the life-saving drugs from ABC Pharmacy, trusting they are the very good company and they are not going to cheat people. And Ramesh, when trying to not collect, upload the document, that's document into an app, we are trusting. So basically, if you all these things happening, the only one thing is in this guy's mind. Okay, so that is called trust. Correct? We trust the system, we trust everyone, we trust hospital, we trust all the entities, we trust all the systems, and we trust all the apps or whatever. And trust makes all these transactions possible, right? Now, as a trust is the central factor of it, the blockchain is considered as the trust machine. When the IBM introduced, they say IBM blockchain is the trust machine. Okay, why? So let's introduce our hero for the day, the blockchain. So what is the blockchain? So blockchain is nothing but a distributed, decentralized, and public ledger. Okay. So this is like a DLT, distributed ledger technology. So as you know, what is a ledger? Say a common record. Okay, it's like a ledger. You forget about the digital. When you talk about the ledger, it is a kind of a small account book maintained by different businesses. Okay, so it is like it will record how many items they have, and what is the profit today, how much they are depositing in the bank, all these transactions. Okay, that is a physical ledger. Now we wanted to make this ledger digital. So you might be asking, is it not is it a new thing? No, it is not a new thing. Definitely digitalizing a ledger is common. Okay, so but here we are going to digitalize the complete ledger, and also we are going to make sure that this ledger is distributed and decentralized and the public ledger, which means we are not saying anyone can access your ledger. There are different types of blockchain deployments available that we will discuss later. But as of now, just remember a blockchain is a distributed, decentralized, and public ledger. Okay, right. So when we talk about blockchain, as I told you, there are three different types of implementation. One is called a public ledger. So as I said, you can create a ledger. Okay, you can create a digital record and you make accessible to anyone who wants it. Okay, then this is called a public. Anyone in the sense you decide whom you want to give, and that is called a public ledger. Okay, or public blockchain environment. And we have something called private blockchain environment that usually shared between only the permission network, only between a particular set of nodes or particular set of networks, business network. Okay, maybe between the companies, between the different companies, they want to create a ledger and they wanted to share some part of it. So that is called private. So there is another thing called hybrid, which will combine both public and private. Okay, that will combine some part of it, they will allow the access for everyone, and some part of it they will make it confidential. So very best example for this hybrid kind of network, a hybrid kind of blockchain network, is for government services. You see, for the government services it cannot be private, because for the government services the customers are citizens, right? The clients are citizens, they have to provide access to all the public, correct? So at the same time, they cannot provide access to all the information within the government system. There is something is confidential as well. So how can we do that? We go for a hybrid system. Okay, so hybrid blockchain is an environment where public and private both can be deployed in the same network. Okay, so these are the three different types of blockchain network. Okay, right. So I'm sure somebody might have already informed about how a blockchain is working. So let me just recap whatever you might know about blockchain. Let me quickly put how does it work. Okay. So as you know, in the beginning, the blockchain was mainly used for doing doing a money transaction. Okay, for example, a digital currency transaction. Okay, so this digital currency transaction initiated for that, but later it has been extended for multiple things. Okay, right. So here one party requested transaction. Okay, so now in a blockchain, as you know, we call this is like a nodes. So nodes are nothing but a computer in a network. Okay, and these nodes it's set up in a P2P environment. Okay, peer-to-peer network environment where this transaction will be funneled and broadcasted to each individual here, each individual computer or the nodes. Okay, and each individual and computer nodes once receive the records, they will validate the transaction. Okay, and whether this transaction is a valid based on some set of conditions, and if 51% of the people, 51% of the nodes, okay, not people, 51% of the nodes agree that this is a valid transaction, then this will be added to the chain of transactions. Okay, that is called a blockchain. Okay, right. And once the block is added to existing chain, transactions are complete and permanent. So now the new transaction is added. Then, as you can see, this is like a chain. Okay, so this is kind of a chain of transactions will be added. So as you can see, you can ask me, or if you are beginning blockchain for the first time, you can ask me whether somebody is going to sit there and going to approve. No, these are all digitally approved. So you might have heard something called smart contracts. Those smart contracts is a one that will work here, that will check the validity of the transaction based on the different conditions and the rules, and then it will approve the transaction. Okay, so that's how it works. So first it will consider the validity approval, then once it is approved, it will be added to a chain of network. So right, so that's how a simpler demonstration or simpler representation of how a blockchain network works. Okay, right. So why blockchain? Now we are talking about the blockchain. Now we discuss about why we need to think about the blockchain. So blockchain is basically it's the whole network, or the whole concept of blockchain is built on these four aspects. Okay, if you know, or we can call this as the four pillars of blockchain. Okay, the consensus. Okay, the consensus, and then immutable, provenance, and finality. Okay, so these are the four pillars of blockchain. Okay, so the whole blockchain environment is built upon this. So first, let us say about the consensus. Okay, and let me show this figure later. Okay, the consensus. What is the consensus? So as you know, the consensus is something like these blockchain network is basically introduced to enable the transactions between different groups of, within the different group of people or different group of business entities. So it is very important in blockchain to have a consensus, okay, or the common sense, or we can say something like a common approval between everyone, or common acceptance between everyone to have what kind of transaction that has to be added to the network. Okay, that is called consensus. The consensus plays a very, very important role in blockchain. And second one, it is immutable. Okay, which means once a transaction is added to the blockchain network, you cannot delete or you cannot modify. Okay, it is completely, this is a timestamp, and it is going to have the security secret keys attached to it. Okay, a digital keys attached to it. It is not at all possible for anyone to delete the transaction or even update the transaction. But of course, if you want to update the transaction, this will go as a new transaction entry into it. That is called an immutable transaction. Next one is the provenance. Okay, as I told you before, the transactions are timestamped and it has the digital ID. It clearly tell you who has created this transaction. Okay, so that is called provenance. At any point of time, you can prove that this particular transaction is created by, added by someone. Okay, we can clearly pinpoint, we can clearly pick it out, the transaction with the timestamp and all the details, right? And another one is called, another important factor is called finality. So what is finality? Whatever the information you are seeing, whatever the transaction you are seeing in the network is final for everyone. For everyone who is joining in the network, all will see the same information. Okay, see, for example, when you are trying to send money from one country to another, okay, when you are trying, or when you are, let's say, when you are transferring money from your friend, or from one person to another. So here, once your money is out of your account, let's say the bank network will tell you only the top, your transaction is initiated. But 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days, your money is not transferred to your friend. So what you will do, you have to call up on the bank and you have to ask what's happening, right? I have transferred money 5 days back. It is not yet transferred to my friend. So what's happening? What is the status? But in the system, banking system, you can see the status as it is being initiated. Okay, but you don't know who is pending with, who is working on it, and all that. Okay, so now the finality is a one where when the whole transaction is implemented in a blockchain, you can also see where it is pending within the bank, what they are doing within the bank. Okay, so which person is responsible, in which department this transaction is pending. So whatever the information you are seeing in the blockchain is a final information for everyone in the node. That is called finality. Okay, so the whole transaction is based on the whole blockchain network infrastructure is based on these 4 pillars. Remember, consensus, immutable, provenance, and finality. Okay, right. So why blockchain? We have another wonderful picture here. So that clearly says whatever I have explained to you. Okay, so if, for example, the first one, let me see, it's a trusted transaction. Okay, why this is a trusted transaction? As you know, the blockchain is nothing but it is going to have, it is a kind of peer-to-peer network. So when I say peer-to-peer network, there won't be any other party can be added to this. So as you can see here, all the people in your, all the computer nodes in your network, you are aware. Okay, if you are, if it is in private or whatever, if it is a private blockchain, anyone can easily access, everyone is aware of who is the other person. Okay, so there is a, so you can trust your transaction. When I initiate the transaction, you can have a trust. You can say that yes, this transaction is going to be visible or shared within my known parties. Okay, there is no third party involvement or third party involvement, right? One. Next one, it is transparent, right? So the whole as I told you about the finality, the whole transaction is going to be transparent across everyone. There is nothing is going to hide. Okay, there is no hidden information, or there is no hidden cost for anyone. Everything is going to be transparent. So as you know, the blockchain comes with the inbuilt security feature. It encrypts every transaction. There is a digital ID or a digital key is added for every transaction to make sure your transaction is 100% secure. Okay, and then there is a real-time tracking. Okay, there is something like as I told you previous example, you can real time using finality concept, you can real time, you can track where your transaction is. And as I told you about the immutability, right? So that is called unalterable copy. Okay, so all your transactions in the blockchain are unaltered copy. Okay, and of course, here not everyone is going to build their own network, or they don't have to spend creating their own ledgers and everything. For everyone, there is one blockchain network, so that definitely it is going to reduce cost for the business across different entities. Another very important factors here, okay, this is one of the important factors which differentiate this from a traditional database management system. No single point of failure. Okay, so in a traditional management system, what will happen, let's say you might have heard many of the IT companies, they normally what they do, they used to have something called a primary server, secondary server, and secondary primary server. There are so many different kinds of servers are available. Okay, just to make sure that at any disaster happens, maybe a natural disaster or any kind of accident or something, your data is safe in multiple server. Okay, if there is one failure, they will go to the next one. Okay, maybe they can keep maybe one primary, one secondary. What will happen, both of the servers are lost, so definitely your data is going to last there, right? But in blockchain technology, if you remember, each node in the blockchain is going to have a data. Okay, whatever transaction they are going to store there. So if there is any failure in any of the nodes, there is no possibility that all, let's say there are 8 nodes in blockchain P2P network, and all 8 can be down at the same time. It's 100% not possible. Okay, definitely at the same time all these 8 nodes are going to be down. It's not at all possible. Definitely there will be 1 or 2 nodes will be up, and this one node is enough to regain or to back up all your data, because each and every node in blockchain is going to contain all the transactions, whatever transactions happening. Of course, there are options. I mean, if you are going deep into blockchain, there is option for nodes to keep what kind of data they want. Like they want to keep only the fresh data, or they wanted to keep the whole history. there are different options, but the point here is every node is going to have the data, and definitely this is one of the biggest features that differentiates blockchain from any traditional database management system. Okay, so these are the reasons why we go for blockchain. Okay, so now when we talk about the cyber security challenges, these are the you might be very familiar with the CIA triad. Okay, CIA stands for confidentiality, availability, and integrity and availability. CIA. Okay, so when there is a digital transaction, when you are going to create a digital transaction, you should make sure that your digital transaction is satisfy these three. Okay, these the three, if you are able to satisfy, then you can say your transaction is a secure transaction, like confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So let's try to explain how the blockchain will help to implement these three factors. As you know, these are the three pillars for any cyber security, right? So let's see how the blockchain can help in implementing or incorporating this CIA triad into every transaction or in a business process. Right. Now, first, let's discuss about the blockchain versus confidentiality. Okay. What is confidentiality? If you want to take an definition from Wikipedia, it says something like this. Okay. The property that sensitive information is not disclosed to unauthorized individual, entities, or process. Very simple. Sensitive information should not be disclosed to an unauthorized individual, right? So don't disclose. So that is called confidentiality. So that is a property that sensitive information should not be disclosed. Okay, so now, as you know, if you remember the previous slides, when I talk about the blockchain network is basically support design. By design it support confidentiality. How? As you know, the component, the computer or the nodes in the blockchain network know each other. Okay, there is no unauthorized node is present in the whole thing. If there is a node needs to be added, it needs approval from everyone so that this node can be added. So obviously the confidential second part of the confidentiality is achieved, but for the first part, sensitive information is not disclosed. Why? Because you know, you trust everyone in the network, you know whom you are going to share your data, because this network is built by you. It's not someone else has built the network. Okay, you know in and out of who is going to join. Okay, like that, right? So in that case, the public blockchain is a more risk and prone to attacks. Okay, so here I wanted to introduce something. Okay, you might be familiar. Whenever we talk about the blockchain, many people think about this, correct? You might have guessed what I'm going to say about. Oh, sorry. Oops. Okay, bitcoins. Okay, so Bitcoin is not a blockchain. Okay, remember, Bitcoin is different from a blockchain, but Bitcoin uses a public blockchain network. So that's why you can see here, when you use a public blockchain in a Bitcoin, for example, today you wanted to invest in Bitcoin, what you can do? So you just have to download an app. Okay, whoever is providing, there is a lot of digital currency blockchain, Bitcoin apps. You just download and you pay money, you buy Bitcoins. But the problem here is, this is digital currency, still it's worth, but nobody knows who is transacting for what. Okay, so here that is a public blockchain, everybody have access, but you cannot track who is doing what. Okay, that is the biggest risk in Bitcoin. That's why many government organizations across the globe, they are not authorizing it, because it is not safe. Okay, anyone can hacking is a different story, but the anonymity is very much there in Bitcoins. That is one of the reasons where Bitcoins is not being approved by many government organizations around the globe. Okay, so in public blockchain, this is more risk and prone to attacks. Okay, right? So in the private blockchain, it's fully encrypted, and definitely you can say your data is protected both in transit and in rest. Okay, so we think that data has only one state, right? Sent and delivered, but there is another state called transit. That is where actual attacks are happening. Okay, when your data is in transit, we can think that the transition is happening quickly, but that one or few seconds or few minutes is enough for the hackers to get the data. Okay, the data in the transit state is very important. Okay, so the private blockchain, definitely these are all fully encrypted. Your data is fully encrypted, and it is protected during the transit or during the rest. Okay, right. And man in the middle attack is highly impossible. Private keys in cold storage. Okay, so here, as I said, MIM is very possible during the data is in a transit stage, but this is very highly impossible in a blockchain environment, because the private keys are basically not, when I say cold storage, which means your private keys are not going to send along when it is in transit. Okay, basically this is going to rest in the cold storage in each and every node. So once the transaction is reached, then it will be checked against the validity and all that. Okay, so private keys are going to be in cold storage, so this will ensure that there is no MIM attack. Okay, so these are the reasons for confidentiality. Right. Next one, securing. Next one is integrity. So let's try to define what is integrity. So integrity means securing against improper information modification or destruction. So as I told you, when the data is in transit, if somebody is going to modify your information, somebody is going to destruct your information or delete your information, that is called integrity. How we are going to maintain that? How you say that the data sent from the node A reaches same like in node B without any modification or without any distraction. That is called integrity. So how blockchain is ensuring that? Okay, so blockchain supports immutability and traceability. As you know that by design, the blockchain transactions are immutable. Nobody can able to delete a transaction or modify the transaction. If they are going to modify, it is not, it is complete, it is again, it is going to be added as a new transaction only, right? So in that way, definitely we can say your information is not modified for anyone, it's immutable, and at the same time it is traceable. The whole history of transaction, you can easily trace where the data is going from, who is doing what, and all that can be traced. And blockchain ensure users trust the ledger and transactions are valid. So as you know, I told in the beginning, the trust factor is very important in a business process or a business transaction. So as you know, the blockchain, we are going to have a well-known entities in the network, right? So that makes sure that everybody trusts the others. Okay, they may not be trusting as a person, but they trust the technology, right? They trust the ledger technology and ledger transactions, because these transactions are going to be valid, and these transactions are going to be authorized by a proper algorithm. Okay, right. The consensus model protocol generally allow 51% of nodes should agree on transactions. So here, if anybody feels that if somebody in the node is trying to create some unwanted transaction, okay, unauthorized transaction, it will not get through into a blockchain until otherwise 51% of the nodes should agree the transaction is valid. Okay, then only this transaction will be added to the blockchain, otherwise it will be rejected, the transaction will be rejected, right? Traceability, so every transaction added to a public or private blockchain digitally signed and timestamped. So as I told before, all the transaction is going to be digitally signed and also timestamped. Okay, right. And every transaction is cryptographically associated and cannot duplicate. Okay, that is here. You might have heard about non-repudiation. Okay, so the non-repudiation can be easily achieved. You cannot duplicate the authenticity, and every transaction is cryptographically associated, which means there is a keys are going to be generated for every transaction before it is going or added into the Bitcoin. Added into the blockchain environment. Right. The next one is about availability. Okay, so how we can define availability? So availability is defined like ensure timely and reliable access to and use of information. So when the information is available, your system should allow me to access my information anytime. Okay, and use that information for my convenience. Okay, that is called availability. Okay, right. So how a blockchain can ensure availability? Okay, so here, as a first step, as you know, in availability, DDoS is the main thing, right? So when you want to make a service not available, simply you have to stop the service, right? So only through DDoS it's possible, correct? But here, in a blockchain environment, the blockchain environment is decentralized and the peer-to-peer nature. So definitely you cannot stop the service. Maybe you can stop service. One node can be attacked with the DOS, okay, denial of service attack. Definitely the other nodes are active and still can process all other information, correct? So in this way, Definitely, it is not at all possible in a blockchain environment to implement or to have a DDoS attack. Okay, and then IP-based DDoS not possible due to no single point of failure. Here, IP-based DDoS is also not possible. As you know, there is no single point of failure. You can block or you can stop one IP, but the other IPs are still going to be active. So there is no single point of failure. Okay, right. Even then, as I told you about the Bitcoin is not secure, as I said before. Even then, it was attacked in 2014 with the DDoS attack. It's a very big, you can check in the internet. Okay, in 2014 Bitcoin network was attacked, but still it withstand. Okay, like withstood without, I mean, the whole system is not collapsed, still it was working. Okay, right. But here, insecure IoT devices, AI based malwares and high bandwidth speeds or some of the warning that will make in the coming years. Okay, these are some of the emerging technology, and when people started using all this technology, the blockchain security about the blockchain also has to be a thing in a broader terminologies. Okay, so that is for availability. Okay, so I just covered three things, right? So what I want to conclude, okay, right? So we can definitely say that blockchain is highly secure. Okay, it doesn't mean that it is safe. Okay, we cannot say that it is safe. Of course, as you know, every time the attack is very common. Even then, we talk about the cyber security from the day the internet is introduced, correct? Which is going to be there all the time. So we cannot say that blockchain is a bulletproof or a highly sensitive network or highly secure network. Okay, so it is not safe as well, which means you need to make extra measures to make sure that your blockchain network is safe, right? And advancement in AML helps hackers as well. So as you know, the advancement in the technology like AI and ML definitely is helping the businesses in a great way. But at the same time, the hackers also use it very effectively for creating the attacks and all that stuff. Okay, so it can be possible. And second one, quantum computing and identity management helps to protect blockchain environment. So as you know, the quantum computing is one of the very popular topics, and identity management is also one of the very highly, I mean, very popular and topic in the research market. So these two technologies, when they coming into the market for the real-time deployment and installation, definitely the blockchain environment can be protected than what we are having now. And then, so as I told you before, blockchain is not a bulletproof technology to secure all the transaction. Okay, the organization should take care, and they should make sure there are they have to make sure that this the whole network is secure, and they are vigilant about what's happening for every transaction and what's happening in the every network. And they should be resilient, which means something, when something happens, how quickly they rebound, okay, into the market. Okay, withstanding all the attacks and everything, how they are going to be quickly resilient about the attack. Okay, right. So I would like to conclude with a quote from one of the very popular Bruce, cybersecurity professional. Okay, so he says that if you learn anything from the past couple of years, it's that computer security flaws are inevitable. Okay, so which means that it is going to be there for always. The computer security flaws. So as I told you before, we talk about the cyber security challenges from the day we introduced internet. Still we are talking about it, but because there is no solution, correct? In the sense, we can protect from the hackers. We cannot say that I have a technology that protect everything, my secure is completely secure. Okay, maybe today, maybe after 6 months, something can come. So that's why many companies, they create the I mean, antivirus softwares are very popular. They are releasing maybe every 3 months, every 2 months, or something like that. Why? Because these are inevitable. Okay, the computer security flaws are very inevitable, and we have to make sure the business processes should make sure that these challenges are handled properly. Okay, so that's the conclusion for today. So thank you very much for listening.